Hey, family. Welcome to the African Ancestry Experience. This is where we discuss what it means to transform the way we as Black people, view ourselves and the way we view Africa. We've got three brand new African Ancestry family members joining us tonight. We have Amber Thomas, who's my soror from the NAACP, and then an HBCU grad. Let me not forget that. And then we have HBCU college students Alejandro Ibrahim and Sabrena Carver, who learned their African ancestry while in Ghana in August. They're here to share how taking an African ancestry test has been a huge step in them filling the Africa void and how it can help you too. You don't want to miss this, so stay tuned because I want to know ya.
I wanna know ya, Cameroon, Guinea-Bissau, Sierra Leone, gotta let me show ya, Nigeria, Bioko Island, Liberia.
The African Ancestry Experience is all about sharing identity-focused conversations with the African diaspora. We at African Ancestry trace your DNA, we find your roots, and then we help you explore who you are. Now, the African Ancestry online community is a group of people who've already taken our test. And if you all are in here, not if, I know y'all are here. So I want to see your country flags in the chat. I know you're here. Give yourselves a hand clap. Y'all almost 10,000 deep. We're talking about 10,000 people who are in the community on Facebook, chopping it up. The community is led by Ty Brooks and sharing information and resources and experiences now that they know who they are and where they're from. And I'm so happy to see all of y'all. Listen, look, Wendy hates when I do this, but Della's here and Philip, I am Volt as usual. I see some new names too. Hey, Maureen, Mo, welcome. Fifth Dimension, Lisa's in the house, Menelik. I'm so happy to see y'all. Thank you for being here with us tonight. I'm very much looking forward to this talk or this conversation. Now, you guys know every Wednesday we give away African Ancestry swag to the first person who joins us after 7 p.m. And this week, the winner gets our Helix identity pin. Shout out to Derek S.D. Lewis. You need to send us your mailing address to info@africanancestry.com so we can send you your Helix identity pin. Congratulations. I need you guys to like, share, subscribe, and most importantly, turn on your notifications so that you don't miss a single episode. I shout out to people who like Menelik who are here. I know you have your notifications on because you are here sometimes you're here at like 6:45. I love it. I love it. Now, I've told you each week, Sierra Leone is sold out. So y'all can forget about Sierra Leone this year. That trip is done. But well, actually, you know what? Ghana is done too, because we're going to Ghana on October 22nd. So the trip that's left so far is Cameroon, and you all have come through. Let me tell you, Cameroon, that trip we only have a few seats left seats left on that trip. So if you've been thinking about it, you might want to go on over there. You know, we offer Affirm as a payment option, so you can purchase the trip and then you can make the payments in 3, 6, or 12-month installments using Affirm. Shout out to you, Wim Payande. Hello, Tracy. Lakita wants to know how to get her book. Lakita, you won, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, but you just need to send us your mailing address. Email that to info@africanancestry.com. Darnell Clayton's in the house representing for South Carolina. Okay, so we're going to Ghana on October 22nd, and we're going to Cameroon on March 12th. So I hope to see you all. Some of you all registered after last week's show. I saw you. I peeped that. I saw you. All right. Back to the matter at hand. I have all these new friends I met in Ghana in August through the NAACP. And it was a fellowship that was offered by the Amos C Brown Fellowship, I believe it is. Let me take these off. And they had 45 students who traveled to Ghana. And while they were there doing a host of things, and we'll talk about what they did, we actually revealed their ancestries. And that's where I met them. And so I'm excited to invite them to be here with us tonight. The first person we're going to welcome on is Amber. Amber, welcome, welcome. I want you guys to put your fist emoji in the chat to welcome Amber Thomas. She's the NAACP's Vice President of Effectiveness and Improvements in Operations. I feel like that just means you run things. Is that what that means, Amber?
I help people run things. I got a lot of great team members. I'll say that.
Ooh, that's heavy. Effectiveness and improve. Oh yeah, you're right. You help people run things, make sure it's done better and done right and all of that. I'm so glad to have you here with us, Amber. Thank you for joining us on such short notice. And you all, we were hoping to have Annalise with us, and so we're keeping her in our thoughts and prayers. So thank you for being here. And then the students from North Carolina Central University, Alejandro Ibrahim and Sabrena Carver. Why am I calling him Ibrahim?
That's my last name in school. It works.
But I love saying your name, Alejandro.
Thank you.
And then Sabrena, what's up, girl? How are you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I appreciate that you guys are here because I know you have very busy schedules. You're not just students, but you're leaders. And so I thank you for being here as well. All the HBCU grads in the chat, let me see some fists. I know we got some HBCU grads in here. These are your people. So welcome to the African Ancestry Experience. I can't believe it's been 2 months since I met you all in Ghana. Does it feel like you were in Ghana just 2 months ago, or does it feel like a lifetime, or what?
It feels more like I was just there and I'm here, and sometimes I wonder why I'm still here and I'm not there. I'm not gonna lie to you. So yeah, sometimes it does feel like that. I did get a little Ghana sick when I came because I came back to America, which was kind of all the stress came back because over there I was free and my mind was clear. So that did happen. So that was a shocker because people always say when you leave Africa you're gonna miss it, and I never really understood what they meant till I went and I came back. And I got to deal with all these assignments and stuff. I'm like, just take me back. It was so peaceful over there.
And you want to do the work. How about you, Amber? How long ago does it seem like to you?
I don't know. I've had quite a bit of work to do since I got back. So now when I think about Ghana, it does seem like it was in an earlier part of the year. But everything is still fresh, and I am still heavily craving lots of the food, lots of the cuisine. I've been looking at restaurants. I've been trying to get my fufu and my egusi and just all of the things because these are it's a part of my diet now. I have to have it.
Yeah. Now, Sabrena, I know that your mom, well, I don't want to give that away yet. Was this your first trip to Africa, Sabrena?
It was actually. It was an amazing experience. I feel like time flies by. And so I had to really take some time, intentional time after the trip to kind of reflect a lot on like my experiences, what I felt and how I felt after just taking in everything. But yeah, my first time, and it's been exciting ever since.
Yeah. I want to kind of fill you guys in because I know you've been busy and you all aren't watching us every Wednesday on the African Ancestry Experience, and I'm not mad at you. But for the past few weeks, we've had some of the most brilliant minds here on the show helping us to dissect what we call the Africa void and how it continues to impact our family values, the way we view ourselves, our spirituality, education, and so much more. Now, I haven't talked to you all about the Africa void, but Amber, when you hear that phrase, what's the first thing that comes to mind for you?
I think the information that I don't know, the things that haven't been able to be passed on through my family. Mm-hmm. I'm from a really close-knit family on both sides in Mississippi, and we share, we talk about what we know. We know the history of the land, the southern land that we come from. But when we go to talk about our direct connection to the continent, it's not very much that we can say about it outside of what I've recently learned now that we're all really excited about. But it's never been a big part of what we talk about because all of our records. We don't have good records on how things happened or who was who and what was what. So that when I hear Boyd, I think about just the lack of information in my family to be passed on. I think about the lack of information that was present when I was going through school, and just the connectivity. It's a lack of connectivity.
Okay.
But I think you all are doing a good job in helping that, though. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Now, Alejandro, when you were probably one of the first students that I spoke with when we were in Ghana, and as the historian on the call, and as someone who knows who knew some of his African roots before taking the test, what does the Africa void mean to you? Like when you hear that off the cuff?
Yeah. So my dad, as I said before, like in an earlier video, is Nigerian, and my mom is Panamanian. So I get to see my African, direct African lineage through my dad, but my mom is still, until this ancestry reveal, was still a mystery. So on my dad's side, I was like, yeah, I'm African, everything. But on my mom's side, sometimes I would see family members be like, oh, yeah, I'm not African, or I don't have no relation to those people. So I got the best. I saw both sides. That's the beauty in my life. So I was able to see one side, where they were like, yeah, go back to Nigeria ASAP. I've never been Nigeria still. But I saw the other side who was kind of saying, oh, we're not African, we're just Panamanian, West Indian. And they were cool with it. Some of them were cool with it. They weren't really trying to go in debt. Yeah, I had an auntie or uncle who was trying to, but most of them still had that sense of, it's Africa. I don't know if these people really like me or not. So through this ancestry test, I was able to actually be that bridge between Africa and, the West Indies and Central America, shows them what they didn't know before. And because as much as we talk about Black people in diaspora, West Indians and Afro-Latinos, a lot of times, they're still fed the lies that African Americans are fed about Africa, that Africa doesn't have culture, this and third, that they're uncivilized. So I still have to, in a certain instance, do an education process with them. And by going to Ghana and by getting my African ancestry, it's easier for me to actually elaborate to them hey, we didn't start in Jamaica or Barbados. That's good. We got culture there, but this is where we really started. This is where it started for us and this family on our matrilineal side. This is who carried us. So, I'm sorry. I ain't telling away. But I ain't telling the results, but I'm able to, now do that by being able to go to Africa and get my African ancestry. So I mean, that's why this all been like a blessing, because I'm able to actually fill that void with the technology and the experience.
Nice. Sabrena, what do you hear when you hear the Africa void? Because you also knew some of your African ancestry before taking this test.
So for me, the biggest thing that comes to mind when I think of the African void is the idea that we have so many aspects of the African diaspora that have little pieces and parts of what makes us all very much connected. And I feel like connecting back to the African continent specifically helps us to kind of put the pieces together about, how our culture relates to each other in so many different ways. You have people from parts of Central and South America who eat similar foods and have similar traditions and music that ties back to the roots of Africa. People within the Black Americans who, maybe the food that we eat, the way that we celebrate our victories or accomplishments in our life, we're like, okay, where does this come from? And that's kind of filling up that void, that African void of this came from something. And that's a little piece of history that we're learning and we're trying to understand so we can understand ourselves more as individuals and as a community. So that's kind of where my perspective comes from that. You have people from all different parts of the continent that relate so well to each other. So it's tying the African diaspora beautifully with that.
Yes. Listen, this is HBCUs at work, y'all. I'm just sitting here so proud. And both of you guys are both at North Carolina Central. Did you know each other before you went on the trip?
No.
No.
That's the funny thing. We did not know. So when she told me she went to Central, I said, where you been? Central, we're not big, but we're not small. So they live within the palm of your hand. You can say about the cap, I never saw Sabrena. Never.
Yeah, I'm I've been here, I'm not seeing you, but I see him all the time now. So
yeah. All of a sudden, we see each other. I come out to Edmonds, oh, hey, Sabrena, hey. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's because, she's a junior, I'm a senior, so, we take more of our major classes. But before, I did not see Sabrena. Oh, I was like, wow, I'm not the only Eagle here. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Now, Amber, how did this trip come about? How did the trip to Ghana come about? And how were the students selected?
So last year when we were, well, not last year, pandemic years, you feel like everything that happened in 2019 was last year because the last 2 years have been crazy. But in 2009, we did the year of return. We took, I want to say, over 100 folks over to Ghana for the year of return.
You guys took almost 250 folks.
You know better than I do because I was on the Jamestown side. I was on the Virginia side. I wanted to go across the water and I could not go. I had just started with the NAACP. So we took almost 300 people to Ghana in 2019. And one of the elders on the trip, board member, Reverend Dr. Amos Brown, and President Derek Johnson here at the NAACP, and so many other folks, they were like, we need to figure out how to keep this going. This can't be our only time, because NAACP has traveled to Africa several times before. Over the years, we're 113 years old, but we decided we were going to make an intentional, concerted effort to make sure that that gap starts to be bridged, that more and more folks get the opportunity to go over, and specifically our young folks, because like you said, it informs how we're formed. It's important that you get the opportunity to go over there, get that information, and do the work in that space. So we've been really intentional about picking the students. They had to go through an interview process, and they can tell you about it. Go through an interview process, go through an application process, and really talk about why they wanted to come on this trip and get involved in this way.
Nice. So what was it like for you? Well, I just have one more quick question because you guys entrusted us with your DNA, but I'm just curious, and we encourage the African Ancestry community, both those people who have taken the test and those who are still checking us out, trying to decide if they want to take the test, to go home. It's most important to just go home, whether you know where you're from or not. We want you to come with us, but however you get there, it's important to go. What was it like for you, Sabrena, when you landed in Ghana? Do you remember your first feeling when the plane landed?
I feel like I remember I was trying really hard to register where I was, just taking it in and being like, hey, we're in a new environment, a new place that I've never been to before. Like, I felt like I didn't know how to react at first, but over time I started to begin to process the fact that like, I'm in a completely different continent, and the culture, the community, everything that I'm experiencing with the people that I'm interacting with is very different, and ties into my roots and who my people are. And I think it kind of fascinated me. I wanted to learn as much as I could when I was there. The first day, I was like, "Ooh, what's this?" Talking to people. What's your experience like? I was very curious. I was very inquisitive about what can I learn from the people that I'm interacting with in the hotel, outside. Wherever we're going on trips to, I just really, really wanted to learn more about the people and the culture and what people, I guess, just conversation on how people view, America and vice versa. It was just a lot of learning for me. And a lot of anxiety at first, but I started to get used to it after a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What's one, besides your ancestry reveal, which we'll get to right after this, what's one takeaway? Like if you had to say one thing that you wanted people to know about your experience having traveled to Ghana, what would it be? Can you even synthesize it to one thing?
I can think of one thing in particular that really stuck out to me, and it kind of ties back to also like how I was raised. So I related to the comment that when I asked this question, it was, what does community look like to you? I was talking to people that were, born and raised in Ghana. Like, what does community look like to you? Like, I realized that, the idea of working together, and, America, like, we're very individualistic. That's just a part of, I guess, like Western culture, Western society. We're trying to build a path for ourselves and build this unique, legacy in our lives. But when you go to places, specifically Africa, like, there's this idea that we're all in this together. You're friends, you're helping them, your neighbors, you communicate with your neighbors all the time. Whereas maybe in other parts, you might not talk to your neighbor very much. I love the idea that like people were just on this journey together. They're friends. They felt really closely connected to their friends and their family. There was a lot of respect and a lot of, desire to have people around you that support you and love you and care for you. They actively looked for that. And I thought that was really cool, like it just seemed different and it seemed very comforting. I can imagine to be around people that really, really do look out for you and want the best for you.
That's a very positive reflect. You're making me reflect now. That's a positive reflection. Alejandro, I know you'd been wanting to go to Nigeria. Your father hadn't taken you to Nigeria yet. So what was your takeaway when you landed in Ghana?
So my number one takeaway was I'm actually home, and that's because it's always been a dream of me again to go to Africa, but I finally did it. At certain points, I was saying to myself, is this really gonna happen anytime soon? But it actually happened. So I was happy to be there and land. But I mean, just going out and taking in the air and everything of that nature, like it felt so real. It felt really actually real, and it was just great being there. And did you ask like what's the takeaway? I would like tell the people about it.
Mm-hmm.
She kind of stole part of what I would say, but I would just say that they care about you in Ghana. They really do.
Mm-hmm.
Like where we went, people were praying for us, and they didn't even know me. They didn't even know like anything about me, but they were still wishing good on me. That means a lot. You understand? Because in America, people don't really wish good on you like they do over there. Everywhere we went, they were praying for us, doing libations, saying, "I hope you have safe travels," like blessing us, trying to help us manifest things. That meant a lot, especially for someone who just stepped into a zone that he's not really used to being in. Because I've never been to Africa. I've grown up around African immigrants here, but it's not the same when you're there. And people just showering love and blessings upon you, that's deep because that doesn't happen a lot here. We don't get that on a daily basis. Everywhere we went, somebody was literally praying for us. They were saying they wish good upon us. That means a lot because a lot of people don't wish good upon you in America. I'm just going to keep it real. But I go to a foreign country where they tell us not to go all the time, but they say they're going to treat you bad, but they actually treat me better with more love than what I got here. So that's just something to think about, is that they care about you even when they don't know you. That's deep for me. That's really deep.
I love it. I love it. There's somebody who wants to know, how is this done? And so I'm going to get to that. I saw your question and I wanted you to I wanted to acknowledge that. Amber, so you wanted to go in 2019. I feel like they kind of left you out. They should have let you go, girl. I wish I had met you there. But so what was it like for you when you landed?
I was too new in 2019. It was some people who had been thrown down with the association and doing the work as staff members who went and they were supposed to go. So I'm not going to take anything from them. And I felt like my time was coming, and it did come. And it was amazing. From the time that we got on the plane and we were announced on the plane to everybody that was on the plane that we were there, the NAACP and the fellows were there on the plane. To the drum processional that we met outside and had the opportunity to dance and do all of that. Like, it was a warm welcome. And I will say, I was talking to my mom, and I said, "Mom, this feels so familiar." It was just because of some of the flavors in the food, and I'm a foodie, so I'm gonna keep on talking about the food. But some of the flavors in the food felt familiar. Like when I tasted red for the first time, I was like, these are black eyed peas, and I like black eyed peas, and I like how they're doing this in the seasonings they use, and it's so familiar. So another thing I remember mentioning to my mom, that everywhere we looked, on billboards, art inside the hotels, the art inside different stores, it was black folks. It was black folks. So in America, when you're looking at art and you see art with black folks, you have to search black art in order to get the type of art with black folks on it. And by default, the stock images, that you would buy in a random picture frame inside of a store, it had black families inside the picture frame, because black folks, African folks, are centered. They're the default. So it felt really good to look at folks with hair texture, with melanin and all of that stuff. It felt familiar. And just to go back to what Alejandro said a few minutes ago, actually, like, I get what you're saying, Alejandro, but it also felt a lot like the familial or camaraderie that I kind of feel like at Jackson State, or at my church home in Bolton, Mississippi, or in my predominantly Black city of Jackson, Mississippi. Even though Mississippi is Mississippi and everything that you know about it, but Jackson is still a pretty Black city. So it was good to, like, just be surrounded by folks who, you know, look familiar, who look like people I knew back home. I was just like, you look just like such and such, you know, that could be, you know. So it felt really good. But then I also respected and realized that this is not the culture that I was brought up around. These are, you know, not people that I actually know, and I need to take the time to appreciate the difference and take the time to get to know where I am, and just learn that. So it was amazing.
I love that, familiar yet unknown.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and being respectful of the fact that you don't know, and being open to learning. Wow. So for those of you all who are just joining us, these are my new cousins, all HBCU students and grads, and all representing the NAACP through a fellowship program where they traveled to Ghana in August of this year. And they all took an African Ancestry matriclan test prior to taking the trip. And the matriclan test traces maternal ancestry. So we took their DNA, they swabbed their DNA, sent it to us in confidential packaging. Our lab unlocked the code of the DNA that they've inherited from their mother and her mother and her mother, going back 2,000 years, and found matches among people in present-day African countries. And then our lab destroyed their DNA. I have to make sure I say that every time. And so on the trip, when we were, after they had visited, or we had visited the Cape Coast Castle dungeons, which is a fort where captured Africans were held prior to being shipped to the Americas and the Caribbean, we had a ceremony where we revealed their maternal ancestries. And so we have a quick clip of the reveals so that the audience can see how rowdy this particular group of people was. It's Cameroon! Okay. The Cameroonians are rowdy. Lauren, Sabrena, Jarvel, Alejandro, and Carter. You all are the T-cars. You are the artists and the artisans of the culture. It's all making sense.
My name is Alejandro Ibrahim. My dad's Nigerian, my mom's from Panama, and so for the longest we've been trying to find out her tribe. And we found out we are from the Takar people in Cameroon. I mean, it's very touching to me because I finally know the identity on that side. Well, I know my father's side. I've been always wondering where my mom is. Now that I know that she's Takar, I can go back there, connect with the people, even possibly learn the language. But it's really about getting that identity now. So I have it. And I mean, thanks to African Ancestry, I was able to do that.
Thank you, Alejandro, for that commercial. I appreciate it. So,
Yes, ma'am.
Congratulations. And I should say, we didn't show your group, but Amber shares ancestry with the Bubi people on Bioko Island, as well as the Tikar, Hausa, and Fulani people in Cameroon. So all of them are Cameroonians. I want to see some Cameroonian flags in the chat. I know your cousins are on here. I know they're here. And we had Dr. David Johns with us last week, who also, I think he was the leader of the rowdiness. The one who had y'all all hyped up.
Yeah, he probably was. He always be hyped.
He probably was, yeah.
So what did you think? What went through your mind once you were able to process the information? Sabrena, let's start with you, because I know I want you to share what you told me about your results.
Well, I knew a lot more about my paternal side, because I knew that my grandfather was from the Bamileke tribe. I remember, I think I was talking to you about it afterwards. Like, I never would have thought, like, I did not expect my maternal, ancestry would be anything other than Bamileke, and finding that out was just very like eye-opening for me. I called my mom afterwards. I was like, Mom, did you know that, on our maternal side, we're outside, and I thought that was pretty cool. And come to find out that me and another person on the trip were both from the same tribe. And she, throughout the entire trip, people kept confusing her and I. They kept, saying, what's your name again? And we were like, what are you guys talking about? They thought we were twins, we were siblings. And, come to find out the reason why, or maybe part of the reason why, is from the same tribe. We might share some ancestry thousands of years ago. And, it shows that we're connected in a lot of ways. And it helped to explain a lot of why people might have kind of seen us as similar to an extent. But, it was very exciting to find that out afterwards. It gave us a little bit of closure on the mystery of why we look and get confused each time.
And you guys were hyped. I remember talking to you outside the hotel, and the energy level was way up here. I mean, you guys just couldn't believe that you shared the same ancestry. What's interesting to me, though, is that it's your mother's father who you know to be Bamileke, and we did your mother's line. So that made me feel a little bit more comfortable about the fact that it wasn't Bamileke necessarily. But of course, we know that these lineages are all, if you go back far enough, several of the lineages are related. What about you, Amber? How have you processed the information and shared it within your family?
So you want to know the truth?
Yeah.
So when you first said it and you revealed it, I was like, wait, where? Because honestly, when you're, talking about the continent, you very rarely hear anybody ever say Bioko Island.
Yeah.
And I never, paid attention to it. But when you said Equatorial Guinea, I was like, oh, okay. And then you said Cameroon, I was like, oh, okay. But the Bioko Island part was, it was such a mystery for me. And I was instantly intrigued. And I remember running to my seat and sitting down with Annalise and my colleague Trevon, and we instantly, got on the internet. We were like, okay, so where is this? What does the flag look like? Who are the people? How can we visit? All of that stuff. So I don't know. It just opened up a whole new world. And now I found myself searching the hashtag on TikTok, trying to see if folks are making TikToks about Bioko Island, going all over social media to see, to hear the language and how they use the language. I want to see how they dance, like all of that stuff. So it's given me something else to really research. And a few of my family members have been really interested in doing it as well. But me doing it has helped them, get a little bit more information. And now they're doing some research, and hopefully at some point we can make a trip. So that's the plan.
I love that. And what you said is key, because you took the test, but the result is the same for everybody in your family who comes from your maternal grandmother, who comes from her mother. And now all the future generations who come into your family on that line will know where they're from. So I love that they're getting engaged and learning more about it. And we're going to have more family reunions to Cameroon. So your family is invited to, all of your families are invited to come with us. Alejandro, you knew a lot. You knew a lot about African countries. You knew a lot about genealogy. What has your takeaway been now that you share ancestry with the Tikar people in Cameroon?
So I felt very overjoyed, especially now that I could bridge that gap, because the farthest I can trace my family back to is about my second great grandmother, and she's from Jamaica. So when you say Jamaica and Cameroon, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is a very high possibility, because a lot of people from Cameroon were taken to Jamaica. So I did very much believe, like, yeah, this is real. So when I'm hearing this, it really solidified a lot about just who I am and where I come from. My family was waiting on WhatsApp. So when I told them, they were talking about, we related now to Spike Lee, Quincy Jones, Erykah Badu. I'm like, okay, now y'all are happy. They were really happy to find out the ancestry. And it also inspired me though to want to take another test. I still have to do my mom's father's side. I still want to find out what they are, and I still want to find out what my grandmother's great grandmother's husband's side was too. So I'm definitely interested in doing tests again to find out more about my family. So it's also a motivational piece for me to find out more about my family. And also go to Cameroon. Most definitely want to go to Cameroon now. That's number 3. I'm sorry, I still gotta go to Nigeria. Still gotta go to Niger, but still gotta go to Cameroon. It's number 3. Definitely trying to go there, and also to connect with other people and tell the greatness about this experience that you can actually find out, your origin. Because a lot of times we're taught, slavery, civil rights, but now we can go back to to where it really began for us. Where our story was written, where our people come from, our culture. And so by being able to do this test, I'm now able to say I'm Takar and I'm Hausa. I'm able to say that now. I'm able to have part of the pie complete. So now I know fully my identity in the cultural sense. So now I can connect with people who I never have known before, but I connect them because of I know my culture and my identity now and my tribe. Just think about that. That's a lot to take in.
Well, and what resonates with me, Alejandro, is that you are on the campus with someone who was raised with Cameroonian culture. And so it's just a matter of, stopping when you're in front of Edmonds Hall or whatever you call that place. Not only are you connected to people on the continent, but you're also have connections with people right there on your campus. And so many of us, once we start to look around, maybe in our workplaces or in restaurants that we like to go to or at festivals, we can find people in our cities who share that same ancestry. And then, of course, there's the African Ancestry online community where people are sharing lots of resources. I know young people aren't on Facebook that much now, but
well, we on Instagram though.
Okay, Amber's gonna start the TikTok revolution, the Bioko Island TikTok revolution.
That'd be very interesting, though. I'm telling you.
Oh my goodness, I know. Okay, so listen, I don't know. I got all off track, but I love everything that you guys have said, and I think we should probably go to the Fact or Whack. What do you think? Y'all ready for Fact or Whack?
Yes.
Okay. So every week we have some statements, and our audience, our family in the chat, they decide whether the statement is a fact or if the statement is whack. So we have 3 statements, one for each of you. We'll start with you, Amber. If you could read the statement, and then everybody get ready with your facts or whacks.
All right. The lack of a sense of identity may contribute to depression in young people. Fact or whack?
I feel like we're throwing you guys softballs this week. What say y'all, family? The lack of a sense of identity may contribute to depression in young people. Okay, all the facts are rolling in. What do you think, Sabrena? You think that's fact or what?
I think it's fact. I think it definitely can contribute to that because having a sense of community can kind of help a lot. Yeah.
It speaks directly to what you were saying about that feeling of community. When social identity is rapidly changed, threatened, or questioned, a child may become vulnerable to depression. And one of the ways we see this happen is when kids are in school and they have an ancestry day or they have an international day, and you have to put a pin in the map where you're in the country where your family is from, or you have to bring a dish from your family's country. And what do our kids do? We grab some kente cloth and they rep Ghana, which is great, not a problem. But I've heard kids tell me, they said, well, where am I supposed to put my pin? I don't have any place to put my pin. And so that's one way that we're helping to fill that Africa void, not just among us, but among others, so that the people that we go to school with and the people that we work with learn about who we are and where we come from. Okay.
I got a story to that one too.
Okay, share it.
Yeah. So what happened was that my sister me and my sister used to go to predominantly white elementary school. And so one day the teacher sat my sister around the other students and said, all the African Americans in the room, they came from slaves. And so my sister literally went to my mom and said, did we come from slaves? And my mom said, what happened? And so when my sister told my mom the story, my mom, being who she is, marched right down there and said, you don't say that. These children have African roots. And so my mom grew us up heavy on, we're from Africa. We're African people. And so just think about, the access that, your brand has to teaching people that now you can put Cameroon, Bioko Island, Angola, any country in Africa that you come from. But that's what a lot of students I know do deal with, is the fact that their history is being taught to them in a skewed manner to where they do not have a full sense of who they are. And that's due to the education system that we have. And so that alone just shows like the power of identity, because while these European kids can say, I come from Scots-Irish, I'm Ukrainian Jewish, we're out here, a lot of our children out here thinking, well, where do we come from? And our teachers then come in and tell us lies because we are African people. And so that's just the importance of African Ancestry DNA testing right there.
Mm-hmm.
These are HBCUs, y'all. That's all I have to say. These are HBCU students and graduates that we got up on here. Okay, let's go to the next one. How about Sabrena, why don't you carry this next one or read this next one?
All students, regardless of race, should be taught Black history.
Back to whack. Okay, listen. If I see any wax up on the screen, you're getting kicked out. You're getting ejected from the comments. If I see a single whack, I dare somebody to put a whack up here.
All facts.
Our audience would never put a whack. Yes.
Yes.
So you say I'm co-opting this one. This is absolutely a fact. Black history and African history is Black history. We have a lot. We have the most history out of any group of people. Our history goes back thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Philip Edmonds says, y'all gonna learn about this greatness. I love it. Okay, Alejandro, this next one is for you.
Lack of cultural
Oh no, sorry.
Sorry. Is it this one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. One of the impacts of the African void is that educational achievement is more difficult for Black students.
Factor whack. One of the impacts of the Africa void is that educational achievement is more difficult for Black students.
I'd say fact. I would say fact because I feel like identity can intertwine with achievement. Because if you look at certain communities, they match their identity, their achievement. So I do believe that possibly us not having that strong connection with Africa may be a reason, because we don't. Because when we talk about mathematics, for example, we were the first mathematicians, but we're not taught that. So I do believe that if most Black boys and girls were taught that mathematics is within their DNA, achievement could rise due to lack of influence and empowerment. So I would say factor that one.
Yeah, a couple people have said whack, and I think as I see those whacks, I think it may be the interpretation of how we wrote it. What we mean by, or what we mean to say, is that there's higher achievement when you are connected to Africa. So when there is no Africa void, you have higher achievement because you're not dealing with, you're getting culturally relevant education. Mm-hmm. So I could see where someone would say whack, but I think those same people who said whack would agree with what I just said. So fact. Students don't develop positive cultural identities without culturally relevant education, or it's more difficult for them to develop positive cultural identities. So that's what we meant by that. So that's our factor whack. We gave you guys softballs this time. Everybody who's watching, you got some softballs thanks to the HBCU crew. We do have posts on our social media channels on 5 ways that the Africa Void impacts us. So I encourage you guys to go over to follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, even on LinkedIn to check out those 5 ways that we're impacted. I encourage you to go over to travel.africanancestry.com to learn more about our upcoming trips. We're going to Cameroon. We're going to the home of Amber and Alejandro and Sabrena in March. And you know, they might get the last 3 seats. These 3, I don't know. They might get the last 3 seats. So
possibly.
Possibly, you never know.
I think that would be so cool. I wish one day we can do something like that when we contribute to you all finding out where you're from and then are able to take students to that country. That's a dream of ours that we're working towards. So you have anything else? Any of you have anything else you want to add about your experience, your African ancestry experience, your Ghana experience as we wrap up? I want to give you the floor to say anything that you wanted to say that we didn't get around to.
Absolutely. If y'all don't mind, I'll jump in. A few days before we left for Ghana, my aunt, who is my mom's sister, one of her best girls, you know, that's what we say in our family, one of my best girls, passed away suddenly. And one of my last conversations that I had with my aunt, who was so amazingly proud of me, was I was telling her about all the traveling that I was going to do and all the stuff that I had coming up. And I was like, Auntie, I'm going to Ghana. I'm going to Greece. I'm doing all of this stuff. And she said, girl, look at you. I'm scared of you. You are really doing it. I am so proud of you, you know. And she was like, I didn't get a chance to travel as much. I said, well, I got it from you. I said, you really didn't, you know, go around internationally, but name one state in the country that you haven't visited. And she was like, girl, you're right. You know, she was like, well, you make sure you bring me something back from Ghana. You make sure you bring me back something from Greece. But when she transitioned right before I left for Ghana, I was trying to figure out a way that I could honor her while I was there. So when we visited the African Diaspora Center, over on the same compound where the W.E.B. Du Bois Center is, there was a wall of remembrance, and they were like, you could you know, purchase a plaque and put up a loved one's name. So I had the opportunity to put Georgette McDonald on the wall among all those other names, and it felt, you know, it felt really, really good for me. But when I was able to share it with my family and for my mom to see it, and she was like, see, you had Georgette with you. And I was like, I absolutely did, and I always will, because the ancestry that I found while I was there is hers. Like it's my mom's sister. So it's so important. And I thought about her, and I definitely, every time I think of Ghana now, I instantly, it's some grief that's connected with it because I was processing, but it's also some joy because my aunt was there.
Oh, we honor your Aunt Georgette. Georgette, right?
Thank you. Yep.
We honor her as an ancestor. I love it.
Thank you.
And there's some pretty heavy hitters on that wall at DAF.
Yep.
So
she sure is.
They are in good company with her plaque.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I would like to say that for me, just going to Ghana alone was very life-changing in the sense that it gave me the ability to really look at life through a different lens and see things differently. You know, we live in this Eurocentric society, but we actually get to see you know, people who live different lives but still care for one another, even if they don't know them, as I said. And I think that meant a lot to me. That inspired me to be a better person. And I'll say that when we also traveled to the Cape Coast where they kept our ancestors, that also gave me like an inspiration just to be great, because I saw what they went through. You know, like that was an emotional day, very emotional day for all of us, because that was a lot. I can't even speak on it still, because I'm still processing it. It was a lot to take in. But when I left, I felt like a sense of duty and purpose that my ancestors did not go through all of that for me not to be great. Like I was meant to be great. So it was very empowering at the same time. So I came back ready, empowered, you know, through that trip. That was great to start my school year off, because it's my senior year. And senior year is always those years, gotta do this, you're about to really be a full-grown adult. Like there's no heading back. And I felt empowered going into that because of that trip. So going to Africa is going to be a very empowering experience wherever you go, because you get to, see things that connect to you, but also can give you a driving force. These are your people, and seeing the humility there as well too, it's going to be very empowering to help you just be a better person. So that's why I would encourage people to go to Africa and tour those sites where our ancestors went through, so that you can get empowered and feel your connection. That's a big step for me in my life, and I think it'd be a big step for everybody else as well too.
Thank you, Alejandro. Sabrena?
I just wanted to say very quickly that I really encourage everyone to have an opportunity to travel to the motherland, to travel in general, to get an idea, a different perspective on the way that we live our lives. I think traveling genuinely can change a person's life, and it's not something that can easily describe, but it's just a feeling that you get. 2 weeks prior to going to Ghana, I actually traveled with my family to Aruba, and the way that life is like on an island, it's just so different, and it's beautiful. We were more calm and relaxed. And so I just experiencing different things and transitioning into these different parts of the world that I'm able to experience fully was a beautiful and awakening experience for me. And I think that's helping me and guiding me to find my purpose in life. It's guiding me to be in places that are surrounded by people who wish well upon me and, pray for me, pray to make sure that I'm sticking to my purpose and on my path. So I definitely would encourage everyone to just travel.
I don't know about y'all, but I have a sense that these young people were going to be phenomenal, even if they hadn't gone to Ghana. And so the fact that they have had this experience is just skyrocketing them. Oh, it's bringing me to tears. Woo! Thank you all so much. Thank you for sharing your experiences. Thank you all for being in the chat and chiming in. If you're watching us on the replay, please put a fist emoji in the comments to show Amber, Sabrena, and Alejandro some love. All I can say is thank you. I'm so proud of you all. Amber, thank you for the work that you do at the NAACP in helping it to run more effectively. And even the work that we didn't get into, but the work that you've done with the Hair Care Act or the Hair Act in New York, like you are doing amazing work even beyond your daily commitments. So thank you so much for that. Next, so October is Black History Month in the UK. And so for the next couple of weeks, we're going to be celebrating Black History made in the UK. So check us out on social media, IG, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Our guest next week is Paul Obinna. He's the creator of the Lineage Timeline, which he'll be sharing with us next week. And he'll be talking about his experience being part of the African diaspora in the UK. Everybody, thank you once again. I can't say it enough. Until we meet again, may you be happy, may you be healthy, and may you be whole. Have a very good evening, everyone.
I wanna know ya, Cameroon, Guinea-Bissau, Sierra Leone, gotta let me show